My name is Bud Wilson. I've been around since 1934. Was born in Camden in a birthing hospital, and I was not well. But here you see me at 88, and obviously I've progressed a long time and lived quite a happy life. A friend of my dad's was the man in charge of the hospital, and my mom and I came through it. My sister was born at home, but using the same man 3 years later. And then I went to school through the Pennsauken school system and then to Mercerville High School. Obviously, when Mercerville still had a high school. I started at the University of Delaware, fresh out of college, because I was sort of pushed into civil engineering. And I didn't do well. I mean, the third semester, I could have stayed at the University of Delaware, but I decided to get out. But I was, I'm just young at the time, and got a job erecting chain link fence, an iron worker, framing chain link fence. In Pennsauken, the business was in Pennsauken, but we went all over the place doing that. Had 2 years in the Army, had 2 years erecting chain link fence, 2 years in the Army, 2 years erecting chain link fence, when I actually took a week off to excavate the ore boat at Batstow, which Jim Starkey, who was the archaeologist in charge of the early work at Batstow. And so it was just a week, and we just cleaned it out again after it had been left in water intentionally with sandbags, so that it kept wet. And then I decided then, hey, that I'm going to go back to school, use my GI Bill, Korean GI Bill, but I was not in Korea. I went to Okinawa and spent 19 months in paradise. Let's go to archaeology. And then in '64, they began with the program at Batstow under a man by the name of G. Edwin Brumble, a restoration architect. Starkey was there first. They even had a man by the name of Roland Robbins there who didn't find the furnace because he never asked anybody in town where it was. The men in town knew where the furnace, but the problem was that the site of the furnace at Batstow was underwater. And of course had to be drained before Starkey began to excavate it. And then in '67, as I mentioned, well, not on camera, but John McPhee came to the site I told him that this was Pittsburgh. I mean, Batstow was like Pittsburgh, except Pittsburgh had, 30, and Battsburgh only had 17 iron furnaces. And I told him, but there isn't any Batstow beer. In other words, like there is, for Pittsburgh and beer. Yeah, so not that. But as before, McPhee just chiseled my name in stone by just being someone. On my first dig, that was nationwide with one of his, not just here. That's going on around the nation with that. So anyone reading could still be young Bud Wilson. I was 31. Yeah, basically, yeah. I was 31 at the time. In '67, John Cotter asked me to excavate a well under Independence Hall. Independence Hall was 1735 as a state house, not as Independence Hall. And I excavated that. So in that year, two of the most interesting things I've done were done in that McPhee, and then excavate Independence Hall, before Independence Hall. They were done in '67. And I done that as Charles Wilson. I, of course, attended class as Charles Wilson, but they began to call me Bud. My brother-in-law, now deceased, was at White's Bog with the, I don't know which actually community he lived in, but when he was a young boy, he was up there with the family. And his sister was, his sister, John Cortese is my brother-in-law, actually Giovanni Cortese. And he was up there as a young kid, and his sister was babysitting the young ones while the parents were working. And then John's father was a tailor in Camden, and they would go by railroad to White's Bog, or just by there, and be able to be there for the evening with his wife and family, and then come back to work in the morning. And they were from South Philly, but he was actually there more than 1 year.
Did he tell you any stories about it?
No, he was only 3 years old, but other than they slept in the buildings and ate outside. That's basically that he something that they remembered, and he was outside most of the time.
Is there anything we haven't covered today that you think is important, or any other stories you have?
At my very beginning is reading Henry Beck. Henry Beck and my dad were friends. He was a reporter for the Courier Post, and my dad, when I first met him, my dad was sergeant on the bridge, and then my dad became lieutenant and then captain on the bridge, and then he became, when it was the Delaware River Port Authority, they changed his title to chief.